Hello and welcome back to the Hindu's coverage of US elections 2024. We said it was D-Day. We didn't know whether the results would be out, but they are in fact out today. It does seem, by all accounts, that Donald Trump, the Republican candidate, the US's 45th president, will now also be its 47th president. This is only the second time in history, in US history, that a president has won two non-consecutive terms. So win, lose, and then come back. We have, of course, a full panel here to discuss what that victory means for the world, for our region, and of course, for India, particularly the bilateral relationship. What does this result really say about the US voter? Many had called it a dead heat. It's clear it is no longer a dead heat. Husain Haqqani, give me a sense of your first reaction, really, to the fact that while the race is still being called, we're about three electoral votes short of a definitive victory, that this was really not as close as the polls had said they would be.
Absolutely. And what it shows is that a large number of Americans are unhappy with their lives. And that is why they are looking at somebody whom they have tried before. And this is exactly what happened with Grover Cleveland, who got the non-consecutive term. The second time he was elected was because people were not happy with the Republican whom he had lost to. So basically, it is a vote against the status quo. Trump has been in office before. How different will his term be this time? I'm not too sure. He will have similar constraints and problems. He is a boisterous personality. He has a tremendous ability to generate news about himself. A lot of people who didn't want him to win were people who were hoping that we will settle to calmer times. And quite clearly, a lot of Americans don't feel that way. The one big shift in the electorate is the shift in the Latino voters. And I have a feeling that that is what I call the third-class compartment in a subcontinental train, that kind of effect. That those who manage to squeeze into the train then want to block others from coming into the train. So they probably, the immigration message resonated with them. But I think another dimension was that the left-wing young intelligentsia that is coming from universities that is making issues of things that a lot of socially conservative Americans are not easy with. That made a lot of people unsettled. So it's a kind of an anti-woke vote. People don't like those issues. And there's a continuum going back to President Obama. A lot of Americans have actually wanted America to retrench its external commitment. So that there is a continuation. I think President Biden went back on that. He differed from President Obama in terms of engaging with the world because that was what he was comfortable with. But the average American is not comfortable with that.
Give us a sense, firstly, of how the news that Trump is back is going to be seen in Pakistan.
Well, it's very interesting. Pakistanis have, over the years, become a very inward-looking country. A lot of things they look at, primarily through the lens of their domestic politics, which has both a positive and a negative side to it. But the PTI supporters of Imran Khan, have been fed the message over the last few months that a Trump victory would ensure Imran Khan's release from prison because Trump looks upon him as a friend. So they are all elated. They are very happy. Some people who are on the side of the government are concerned, just in case what the PTI people are saying turns out to be true. The Pakistani establishment was fully prepared for both a Trump or a Harris victory in the election. Here's the bottom line. Pakistan does not rank very high in either President Trump's priorities or would have done in a Kamala Harris administration either. And Pakistanis have yet to come to terms with that. There might be less pressure on human rights and related issues on Pakistan. There might be even less interest in Pakistan because there is nothing in the region apart from India, that interests President Trump. Could a deterioration in relations between China and the United States impact Pakistan because of its close ties? One of those variables that Ambassador Arun Singh was talking about, because we really do not know how Trump might react to any issue. Remember, he went through several secretaries of state in his last term, several national security advisors, none of whom supported them in this election, partly because they think his understanding of world politics is more instinctive rather than sophisticated. So, yes, there are people he likes, and he likes Prime Minister Modi. We don't know whom he likes in Pakistan, if he does. So I don't think that it will be a high priority. Pakistanis will have to come to terms with that reality, which I don't think many have.
Well, certainly it has been interesting in the last few years, because what we did see was, while Mr. Trump invited Imran Khan to the White House after having cancelled all Pakistan's funding, so kind of yo-yo in a sense, but he had a very warm conversation with Mr. Khan. But subsequently, when the Biden administration came, they had no truck with Imran Khan at all. I don't think Mr. Biden and
Well,
Mr.
neither
Khan.
did Mr. Trump, actually. It was a one-off, Suhasini.
Right.
Lindsey Graham, the senator from South Carolina, had met Prime Minister Khan at that time. He came back and he told Trump that I met the guy in Pakistan and he's a bit like you. And so Trump said, oh, if somebody is like me, they must be good. Bring them over. And he came. But if you think about it in policy terms, after the meeting with Imran Khan, what really changed? Trump, by definition, is not pro-aid, so Pakistan's aid was not going to increase. Trump wanted to get out of Afghanistan and didn't want to do it under any arrangement that benefited Pakistan or anybody else. So that also didn't come out to Pakistan's advantage. And Trump sees India as the larger market for US products, and any pressures it puts about trade are going to be on India rather than on Pakistan, with whom bilateral US trade is only about $9 billion. So it's more an illusion, because yes, Trump did meet Imran Khan and Biden did not. But in reality, in the substance of policy, very frankly, the interest of the US government in Pakistan started more with the election of Donald Trump than with the election of Joe Biden.
And it must be said, this is when Trump comes back to power, things have changed in Afghanistan. When he was president, he, amongst other things that he did, and the Doha Accord certainly happened during his tenure, was a very, very strange plan, if you like, to bring both the Taliban and President Ghani to Camp David in order to sign this agreement with them. It was aborted at the very last minute by his advisors. The question really, will Afghanistan's regime fare any better, or will he just completely ignore them?
Look, in his mind, he has a very Eurocentric mind, and he's not very knowledgeable about the world, is not a widely traveled person, primarily Europe and North America. And as president, he went to certain places, came to India as well. But he does think that China had... What's his problem with China? It's not ideology. It's not communism. It is trade. He says China takes unfair advantage of America. So basically, he is singularly focused on a very protectionist economic agenda. And Afghanistan doesn't fit into that. And now terrorism, yes. But then there too, he would be a source of concern for Donald Trump. But there too, his response is going to be muscular. Remember, he's the kind of guy who would say, you know what, okay, he will authorize strikes to kill people if he thinks that they are threatening America in any way, if the intelligence comes to that. But other than that, I don't think he's going to get bogged down with issues that he thinks did not help the American economy, because that is what it is all about.
Um, I do want to ask also about where he will go. One of the things of Trump 1.0 was the retrenchment of America in several spheres. So, America walked out of the Paris Climate Accords, it walked out of the Iran JCPOA deal. Trump walked out of UNESCO, he walked out of the UN Human Rights Commission, at least the US did. He also threatened to walk out of institutions like WTO, but most importantly, NATO. Now that he is back, do you see him follow that kind of very sort of America first, retrentionist, if you like, sort of policy? Or do you
Absolutely.
see him having learned a little bit in the last 4 years about that?
First of all, if anyone ever asked me to bet on a man at age 70 plus learning something, I would sort of, hold my breath. Joe Biden didn't learn anything after becoming president. In fact, everything he had learned before is all he kept putting into practice, which is why he got certain things wrong. So I don't think Trump is going to be any different. And moreover, we must remember he's not a person who goes by expert advice or even professional advice from what he calls the deep state in the United States, the intelligence community or anybody. He goes by his instincts. And his instincts are anti-NATO. He believes that everybody in the world has taken advantage. He doesn't understand the American post-Cold War strategy of building others up as a way of securing America. He thinks that that actually was at the expense of America. Very frankly, if he had been elected president in 1948, I doubt if there would have been a Marshall Plan. I doubt if there would have been a NATO. He would have said, we beat them, let's just have a party at home. And that's what it's all about. Let's try and a lot of voters seem to agree with him. A lot of Americans say, spend on us, don't spend on the military, don't spend on protecting other countries. How that fares in a world that has become accustomed to America being the net security provider, Japan, South Korea, Europe, they're all going to feel the pressure. And I don't think he's going to change much now. The only thing is that the kind of drastic changes he wants may not be possible in 4 years. And their fruit may not be born within 4 years, which is why he lost last time, because people didn't benefit as much. So like anybody in Wisconsin who thinks if we get out of NATO, the price of cheese produced in Wisconsin will become better, and therefore I will have a happier life going forward, he or she is going to be disappointed.
Certainly. Hussein, you're there in the UAE. So I do have to ask, one of Trump's legacies from 1.0 that really is floundering now is the Abraham Accords. Even if Trump seeks to go back and try and restore them in some way, and most importantly, try and restore relations between Saudi Arabia and Israel, which I think the Crown Prince has just yesterday said is not a possibility unless there is a future of Palestine, of the Palestinian state is discussed. Do you think Trump will be as successful this time around? What do you see as the future, really, of the US's policy towards the Gulf and West Asia? Given, here in India, we're watching very closely to see what the future, perhaps, of the India, Middle East, Europe economic corridor would be. Where do you see that whole situation going?
Look, I mean, he's for everything that is good for America. And so a India, Middle East, Europe corridor could be good for America in his view. But if it involves spending any money by the United States, he's against it. Similarly, he likes the Arab Gulf countries, and he thinks that they are better partners than the more complicated, larger Arab country, more populated Arab countries. And the Abraham Accords appealed to him, the idea that Arab countries will make peace with Israel with American support in return, eventually for a Palestinian state being created. The only problem there is the one person who is his favorite leader outside of the United States, Benjamin Netanyahu. Netanyahu's understanding of the Abraham Accords was not that the understanding of everybody else getting on board with the Abraham Accords, including the Americans. Netanyahu saw it as a way of normalizing with Arab countries by bypassing the Palestinian issue. And that is not going to work, especially in the post-Gaza environment. No Arab country wants to move forward with relations with Israel without some assurance of a better life for the Palestinians. Would Donald Trump be able to deliver that? If he does, he's going to be a hero to many, many Arabs and Muslims around the world. Experience tells us that an intransigent leader in Israel is very difficult for an American leader to persuade, coax, cajole, or coerce.
Well, certainly wouldn't perhaps be easier for Donald Trump than any of the others who were in the reckoning. But Husain Haqqani, it's always such a pleasure to speak with you and gain from your insights. Thank you so much for speaking to us here at The Hindu.
Thank you.